Harrison Price for Thursday, November 13th, 2025, presentation of Bet365. We're coming to you from the Pacific Toyota Dealer Studio here at the historic Wall Center. Visit shoptoyota.ca or visit your local Pacific Toyota dealer today. Matt Sakaris with Blake Price, four-time Juno Award winner Mike Rogerson, hitting switches, conducting things. Big show planned for you. We're cobbling together information on the Canucks without Quinn Hughes. Just for the immediate term. Not for the long term. But we are asking that on the Redwoods golf course poll question
that
today.
Kind of a day, folks. There's been a lot of these days.
Yeah, Hughes absent from practice. We'll get into that in a moment. For the prior to that, is this season pushing Quinn Hughes out the door? You can vote yes, you can vote no. Do so at the Harrison Price X and YouTube channels. We ask this because we see all of the commentary about Hughes on social media. Every time they lose a game, every time another injury hits, every time he goes through one of these short, don't want to be there scrums, we see what all of you are saying with regards to what this season is doing. And, of course, we started this year, Operation Keep Quinn Hughes. 18 games in, temperature check. Blake Price, where you at?
Well, we go back to his preseason statements, Quinn Hughes, where he admitted we're not the most skilled team, which you could see one way of what he was meaning, but you can also just go with the bottom line is there aren't enough really good players on this team for them to be a contender. He was, even in the most gentle reading of those statements, he was saying everything needs to go right for this team. And what that ultimately tells you is management hasn't feathered this bed enough for us to go out there and just execute. We need a whole bunch of luck. We need to elevate and everybody to have career years. That was the plan. And it hasn't happened. Certainly haven't got the luck. Career years on a couple of players, but down years for others. And it's just not enough. And we've seen now his attitude just completely change. And when we praise the professionalism and the attitude of Quinn Hughes in his first year as captain and every year prior to that, really. And a guy who's, hey, he's more sedate. He's more calm, relaxed. But we saw smiles.
Oh, yeah. The attitude, again, like when he came into training camp in preseason, he looked to me like he was
pretty morose.
Yeah. Well, no. In the early days when everyone's a contender, he looked to me like he was excited to be back. He looked to me like, okay, I'm going to take yet another step up here in terms of my captaincy, my leadership, my authority. A little deeper, a little more penetrated in terms of being the conscience and voice of that dressing room, if not the organization.
But it didn't take long for reality to hit them in the head.
No, it didn't. No, it didn't.
And that was a
unintended
pun there, by the way, when it comes to the departure of Hedl.
Well, so the other thing you'll remember, he said, bring on the noise, I can handle the noise. You remember his two brothers were talking quite a bit about wanting to play with Quinn one day.
Right, there was that too.
And he was talking about bring on the noise, I can handle the noise. I just ignore it. I'll just go out there and play hockey. Well, it hasn't been his best 18 games. I mean, he's coming off a 3-point game. It was his first one in nearly a year. But really, was it just that one game where you've looked at it and said, okay, there's the most dominant player on the ice? We haven't seen that otherworldly Quinn Hughes much this year.
No, not much.
So, I don't know if it's cause and effect. But if you wanted to construct an argument that, yeah, the noise could be getting to him, that's a possibility here. I think you're right, Blake, in terms of, and frankly, I also wonder whether Jim Rutherford saying what he said last April about one day Quinn wanting to play with his brothers, if that is something that was just best left unsaid for the purposes of Quinn and this season. I mean, I think Jim was feathering the nest, signaling to the fan base that, look, we're not guaranteed to have Quinn here as a career Canuck. And I understand why he did it, but I do wonder if there were unintended consequences in terms of, putting an elephant into the room and placing it right in front of Quinn's stall. The other thing, yeah, I think you're right, Blake. Like, you read into some of those comments, I would bet that Quinn Hughes, who is not a dumb hockey person in the least, looked up and down the roster and went, we are way too susceptible to an injury in the wrong place, center ice. And sure enough, Filipino, Teddy Bluger, who haven't much participated in this season, and it's played out predictably. It was a poorly constructed team. More expensive not to get that center. We said it right from the go. They've entered more expensive not to territory, and that got further in, and that became further the story when Hida left and with Bluger out. So if he's looking around going, these guys ain't it, I understand that they're part of Stanley Cup championships in Pittsburgh and in Rutherford's case in Carolina as well, but I don't see the makings of one here.
I think he was willing to give this season a chance.
For sure.
And then
what hockey player doesn't? I mean, they all enter the season thinking, But
it didn't take long for his deepest, darkest worries to manifest themselves. And I'll only say this once, but it has gotten a little bit interesting on the doomsday scenario side for the Vancouver Canucks fans. It's gotten a little bit interesting on the New Jersey end of this narrative because Luke Hughes is having a season to forget right now, and Simon Nemec is having a breakout year. So the possible receiving team here in the worst-case scenario for the Vancouver Canucks is I have no idea how that affects that narrative, but it's an interesting twist that we didn't necessarily see coming.
Well, here's what I do know. If Simon Nemec, the second overall pick in the 2022 draft, if he is rounding into form in terms of being a top four or even top pair right side defenseman, and especially on an entry level contract, I don't suspect that is a piece that the New Jersey Devils are going to want to part with if Quinn Hughes becomes available via trade, either at the deadline this year or next summer. He's 12 points in 17 games this year, Nemec.
Roland in the chat said New Jersey doesn't have a center for us. No deal.
Yeah.
They don't, but they've got Simon Nemec.
Yeah. But, I mean, if you're looking for Quinn Hughes, you're going to have to give up something of significant value.
Yeah.
And we're getting ahead of ourselves here, and we're getting ahead of ourselves on a couple of levels. Number one, there is a whole lot of season left. We discussed it the other day with Blake. You're still 3 months away at minimum until the doomsday scenario could begin, and emphasis on could. And I say could because I do not see Francesco Aquilini preemptively greenlighting a Quinn Hughes trade.
No.
In fact, for me, the nightmare scenario is Francesco wanting to hang on so long that they take this up until next year's deadline and make the move then, when I suspect the return will be a lot less than what it would be at this year's deadline or this summer. And I say that because, and we'll get to it with Patrick Johnston later in the program, the Gillis regime had a trade for Ryan Kesler at the 2014 deadline when they weren't in it, and Francesco wouldn't greenlight that. Thought that he could convince Ryan Kesler to stay here. Needless to say, failed. Kesler was a duck at the draft. I suspect that given the way he has owned and operated this hockey club, trying to get to the playoffs every year, even if that means sacrificing part of the future, wanting that playoff revenue, trying to be competitive year in, year out, completely eschewing any kind of rebuild. I would suspect that it will take a lot of convincing, and that only when it is completely obvious that he's moving on will Francesco be inclined to move on.
You're probably right. That is a well-deduced. You're probably right.
And that's the worst-case scenario of them all. I mean, as difficult as it would be to trade Quinn Hughes, the best defenseman in Vancouver Canucks history, if not the best player, I mean, he's got an argument there. If you are looking at a world where he wants to move on, then the professional thing to do, the best thing to do for the long-term future of the franchise, is to make that deal when your leverage is as high as possible, to rip the Band-Aid, take the pain, and to move on. And I'm someone who has said that I do believe the Canucks could win a Quinn Hughes trade. Less likely than there's a hockey adage, whoever gets the best player in the deal wins the deal. I don't wholly subscribe to that in a salary cap world, because in a salary cap world, I think you can make a volume trade and get ahead. Look no further than the Ottawa Senators trade for Erik Karlsson to the San Jose Sharks a few years ago, which netted them several very good assets. I think you can argue made them a better team holistically, skater 1 through 18, than hanging on to a Norris Trophy winning defenseman that Erik Karlsson was. Now, granted, Karlsson is a little bit of a different player than Hughes, not as good defensively. But no, I do think if managed properly, there could be a brighter day beyond Quinn Hughes. That you are not resigning yourself to years of misery and not being competitive because you have to trade Quinn Hughes.
The pro-Hughes stance is going to be, though, trade him before the trade deadline this year when you don't even have the opportunity to sign him. Like, do you not give yourself the opportunity to sign him in the summer before you trade him? You can't sign him at the deadline.
Yeah, I think you've got to be honest with yourself.
Yep.
If this is a non-playoff year. So, first of all, you have agency here. You can go to Quinn Hughes in his camp and say, look, we are prepared to throw the biggest contract in NHL history at you this summer. Would you consider signing that? If the answer is yes, then yeah, I do think you play it out to the summer.
And
if the answer is no,
and Matt, I would guess that the answer will be yes, just a strategy. Like it behooves the Hughes camp to say yes to that.
Mm-hmm.
More doors open up to them if they say yes to that.
Mm-hmm.
So that's another reason why it probably won't happen. Now, I will say this: you said that there's so much time to go here on this season. The Canucks are now at the point where they need to play 100-point pace hockey to give themselves a legitimate shot to make the playoffs. Does this team, even when healthy, Blueger back, Hughes back, Demko back, can they play at a 100-point pace? And don't say Heedle back, because we have no idea if that's ever a possibility. But you get Blueger, you get Hughes and Demko. Can they play at a 100-point pace for 60 games?
Yeah.
You think that team can?
I think it's possible. Yeah.
I don't put much probability in that. Okay.
No, well, probability and possibility are two different things. And especially in an environment where you're trying to be competitive to keep Quinn, right? Like, if you did not have that looming over the franchise, then yes, pulling the plug preemptively would be easier. But again, Blake, this is an owner who has never greenlit a rebuild. He always wants to sell hope, even if it is particularly faint hope. We went through years of this. They weren't prepared to scuttle a season when we looked at them on paper in September and said this team has no chance.
That's true.
Without a superstar defenseman, without a Vezina caliber netminder, without a first-line center, or with a waning first-line center and towards the twilight of Henrik Sedin's career.
Mm-hmm.
So, no, if they lose a bunch of games here in the next few weeks, then yeah, we can be there. But knowing this franchise, knowing this owner, knowing the history of the club, I suspect they will go kicking and screaming into being a seller, and will only start making that call in mid-February because you've got a lot of home games that you got to sell between now and then.
Yeah, I mean, the real danger here is our poll question today. What does that look like on January 20th when they've lost a lot more? Like, that's the risk is, this could get really ugly. Like, this poll question could get really ugly in the next 6 weeks if the Vancouver Canucks don't pull off a miracle. And it will be a miracle without Thatcher Demko. Even if you really like Kevin Lankinen, he's had a tough start to the season. But even if you really like Kevin Lankinen, he is one guy. And they've got a condensed schedule ahead. This is putting a big onus on Kevin Lankinen. Scary stuff.
I got to say, though, more and more, Blake, every single day when I look at my timeline and I look at what Canucks fans are saying, like, for example, I got a tweet here from Jamie. I'm ready to trade Hughes. He's injury prone, it seems. Trade him now while his value is high. I see more and more of you talking about trading Quinn Hughes and a Canucks day beyond Quinn Hughes. And that's sad because we waited a half century to see this kind of player here in Vancouver.
Man, I think I've covered this team now for almost 30 years.
Is it really?
Yeah. 27 years I've covered this team.
Attaboy.
I don't think with my own two eyes I have witnessed a better singular player on this.
You're post-Bure or?
I'm post-Bure.
Okay.
Never covered Bure.
Okay.
Lived here, but
yeah,
cover.
No,
but even I can,
Henrik and Daniel Sedin. Well, first of all, both of them have league MVPs.
Yeah.
Daniel via the players, Henrik via the writers. And of course, they had magic between them that was
you can't replicate.
Incomparable, inimitable, and as we talked about a lot with those two, no two humans on the planet have played more organized hockey together on a forward line than Hank and Daniel Sedin. So, yes, nothing that you can replicate. But as individual players, as great as they were, I mean, I'm taking Quinn Hughes over both of them.
Yep. Absolutely. So
it pains me to say that because I have great affection for the Twins personally. But yeah,
I mean,
if I'm starting a franchise tomorrow and you're telling me Quinn Hughes in his prime or one of the Sedins in their prime, I'm taking Quinn Hughes.
But Matt, I'm probably taking Hughes over Bure too.
Yeah, well, he's a winger. Bure's a winger.
Yeah.
This is a defenseman. Yeah.
The most skilled superstar in Canucks history is not an overstatement here.
And that's saying a lot because, my God, did Bure have skill, oozed skill, overflowing skill.
So moving on from Quinn Hughes, if it has to happen, it'll be a sad day. It really will be.
Yeah. Our friends at the Redwoods Golf Course specialize in custom corporate events, and they can throw a few wrinkles in there that make it a whole lot of fun. How about getting your group out to the driving range, and it's covered, it's heated, so it goes 24/7, 365. You can get onto that driving range, hit some golf balls. Sure, the group will have some fun with that. Their lead teaching professional, Craig, can be on hand to help everybody out, give them a few tips, pointers. Plus, they got the food and beverage component. And if you have children ages 6 to 16, set them up for the sport of a lifetime. Private and semi-private lessons are available throughout the fall here. Check it out, redwoods-golf.com. Let's get to our top story, brought to you by the way, I voted yes on the poll for now. I mean, how could this season not be pushing Quinn Hughes?
Yeah, I mean, you could debate how much is pushing him up, but I think it has a force.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Now, get on a winning streak here, that could change. Vibe around the team feels better, that could change.
This team, winning streak. Take that show on the road.
Well, but the other thing to consider here, Blake, and again, like, I'm not being Pollyanna here. I'm not, you look around the NHL, it's a lot of mediocre. They're 3 points out of a playoff spot. Like, do you think San Jose is going to hang where they're hanging the entirety of the year? Chicago? Seattle? So, and we all know, even if guys like us, media guys like us, sit here and say, well, okay, maybe they're a playoff team, but they're not a Stanley Cup contender, which for the most part has been true.
Mm-hmm.
Well, actually, they haven't been a playoff team more often than not, but playoff hopeful, playoff leveled club. Yeah, sure. All those things. What did they miss by last year? 2 wins, 3 wins, something like that.
Yep.
We also know how the vibe of a playoff push, a playoff hunt, being in the playoffs changes the feeling around the team, right?
Yep.
Like, if they're above the playoff bar right now, we're not having this conversation. And you can say that the franchise has conditioned its fan base to lower expectations and not seek out the ultimate prize, and I think that's very much true. But the fact of the matter is when the Canucks are in a playoff spot, it is an entirely different conversation around the club than when they're not. Okay, top story by Yellow Dog Brewing. Neighborhood Brewing, Foolish Winery. Quinn Hughes misses practice in Carolina. Officially day-to-day after leaving, then returning to Tuesday's game against Winnipeg. And he looked very good upon his return. That was the thing. As we all, held our breath when he skated off the ice, because it didn't look great at all. Looked to be favoring the shoulder. This could be a long-term injury. And then he comes back and he's got his first 3-point game in almost a season. Well, oftentimes games are finished on adrenaline, right? And then the injury takes hold in the hours and days later. I'm
still amazed, though. He looked like I was looking for signs that he was favoring that.
So was everybody.
And he looked great.
Yeah.
So I was.
He's already missed 4 games this year. His status will be reviewed tomorrow at morning skate to determine whether he can play against the Hurricanes. A reminder, it's a 4 p.m. start out of Raleigh tomorrow, everyone. And, of course, the Canucks are in Tampa on Sunday, and they are in Florida on Monday. Already a battered and bruised team playing without 2 of their 4 center icemen, a top penalty-killing defenseman in Derek Forbert, and it's the worst penalty kill in the National Hockey League. Nils Höglander hasn't played a single minute all season, and yet this is the cruelest cut. She mentioned Drew O'Connor with 3 points in his last 3 games, 4 goals in his last 6. Also absent from practice, but that was a sick day. Sick day.
I think I might believe that part.
You're believing sick day?
Yeah, I think I'll take the sick day as is, face value.
And here's the other thing, folks. And we talked about this when Quinn went out of the lineup earlier in the season. We said he's by far the best player on the team. And yet, the way the Canucks are constructed, they should be able to withstand a short-term Quinn Hughes injury more so than even much lesser players in the forward ranks because of how thin they are at center ice. Like, it wasn't long ago, everybody, we were talking about this Canucks defense core as one of the best in the NHL, and with good reason. You had the superstar in Hughes. You had the legitimate top pair right side guy in Philip Hronek. Marcus Pettersson is a very good NHL player on your second pair. Tyler Myers, yet another renaissance for Tyler. Plus that third pair with EPD and whoever was going to play the right side, whether it was going to be Forbert, whether it was going to be Villander, who had a nice start to his NHL career, or even Victor Mancini, who was on the comeback trail. So because you were rolling out 6 pretty good NHL defensemen on a nightly basis, a Quinn Hughes injury is something that you should be, at short term, should be something that you can withstand. And yet, Blake, this team has not played with the defensive posture of previous Canucks teams, certainly not the one 2 years ago under Rick Tocchet, which was an exceptional defensive unit. 5-skater goaltender, 6-man defensive unit, shift after shift, game after game. Even last year.
I think in a bid
I saw Woodley say they lead the NHL in allowing the East-West.
Yeah.
Steve Allicat of Clearsight Analytics calls it the slot line. Draw a line down the middle of the ice in the offensive zone. And if I'm a goaltender and you just want to allow passes on one side and shots on one side of that slot line, I'll be here all day.
But see,
as soon as it crosses the slot line, now you're in some trouble.
I'll defend the structure there in terms of what Adam put. Like that pass, I don't care what structure your defender should be able to block that pass. Like in whatever structure.
They're not.
Why no? But that what I'm saying is that to me is like an execution problem from the player, not the defensive system. That pass should not get through with the regularity that it's getting through under any system.
What I'm saying is, well, it would no doubt be daunting to play games without Quinn Hughes, and we've seen it already this year. And we're going to get to where the Canucks stand lifetime without Quinn Hughes. If you were to tell me, okay, he's day-to-day, he's going to miss the Carolina game, he's going to miss the Tampa game, but we feel good about him being back for the Monday game in Florida, I'd be like, okay, with that defense group, should be able to manage that. Should be able to get at least a split. They're good teams, but, get a split. Not out of the realm.
We talked
with
about
the way this defensive group has played this year, Blake,
no.
I don't feel that confident.
One of the strengths of this team, hey, this forward group is a disaster. But what they did, this was conscious. The Vancouver Canucks said, we're going to concentrate on the defensive side of things. We're going to make sure that this team is so good defensively and in goal that we can withstand the fact that we may not score 4 goals a whole lot.
Goal prevention would be our mantra. It would be our staple. It would be where we drive a stake in the ground and say, okay, we may not be getting more than 2, 3, sometimes 4 goals a night with this group.
And instead,
but we're gonna allow even less.
And instead, now we look at this team, and the departure of Quinn Hughes seems like sheer and utter disaster for this squad.
Well, in part because it comes in conjunction with the departure of Thatcher Demko.
Well, of course. Yes.
So 2 of your 3 wise men are out here.
Yep.
You've lost gold and myrrh. All you have is frankincense.
And Frank has not been making a lot of sense.
No, Frank has very seldomly made sense in his 20 years. And as you mentioned earlier, Thatcher Demko had saved something like 10 or 11 goals above expected already this year.
Just about.
He was the best goaltender in the National Hockey League in October. You were giving stuff up, and he was saving your bacon. Lankinen hasn't been that guy this year. He was early last season. He has it in him, but he hasn't been the mid-range goals that we talked about.
Yeah.
Yeah, there are some where he has no chance. It's going to be the case with every goaltender, but he's given up far too many of those mid-range chances or middling chance. I don't mean to call them mid-range because they're not always at mid-range. Just not high-danger chances, just chances. Garden variety chances. He's given up too many goals on those sorts of opportunities, and he's not making the spectacular save on the high dangers.
They need to wear capes, and Demko was wearing a cape.
Mm-hmm. Now, here's the other thing, and we're almost going to make something like this a poll question as we deliberated this morning. Can you afford to play Yuri Patera? Given how little Yuri Patera has played over his 1+ seasons in the Canucks organization. We mentioned he hasn't played an NHL game since, March of 2024? Going back to his Vegas Golden Knights days. He played 5 games for the Abbotsford Canucks last year as they went with the 2 young guys. The since departed Artur Shilovs and, of course, Nikita Tolopilo. Typically, you're going to play your backup goaltender on a back-to-back. Lankinen just had to play back-to-back because Thatcher Demko was a late scratch from that Friday practice and then the weekend's do-side-do with Columbus and Colorado. You're going to ask him to play 3 and 4 against this level of club? Rick Tocchet used to say it a lot last year. Love Lankinen. Love the job he's doing for us. I've got to find him some rest days because he loses his level when I overplay him. Talkin said that 2 or 3 times last year, Blake, in this period when we were missing Thatcher Demko. And he wasn't wrong. The more Lankinen had to play, the less effective he was.
The scary thing is, Matt, Kevin Lankinen at 70% is better than Yuri Patera at 100.
Are you sure?
Is better than Nikita Tolopilo at 100. Yeah, I am.
The good news is that Tolopilo is bouncing back from injury. He did not play last night for Abbotsford.
No.
But
might be available after the road trip for the Canucks as an option. If you're that much higher on Tolopilo than you are on Patera, I think you go as incrementally here. I think you play the first game obviously with Lankinen tomorrow. You play the second game of the 3 games with Lankinen, and you see if he's keeping head slightly above water, you throw him out a third time.
Yep.
After that game finishes, the 3rd and 4 nights, the Canucks play 1 game over the next 5 nights.
Yep. What I will say is I do think you have to monitor independently the fatigue level there because you know the history. You knew his level dropped last year the more he had to ride him, in part because Sheloves was not competent.
I will give you this, Matt.
But
if they grind him,
you ask him, and we've heard this a couple of times from Lankinen this year, no, I want to be in there. My conditioning, I worked on it this summer. I want to be. You know he's going to want to play the game, so you have to make an independent decision, knowing full well that he is going to lobby to play.
And can you imagine if they ground him to such a nub that he was out? Why you got to go there? I don't even want to consider that, Blake.
Well, because at that point you're not watching an NHL team anymore. That's the sad part when injuries get you down to like third string goaltenders.
6 games in 10 days, and he will have played every period except 1 if this plan goes forward.
Mm-hmm.
That is dangerous. You are playing with fire. Proceed with caution.
I'm with you. My inclination right now is, Blake, you signed Yuri Patera for this purpose last year. Okay, you didn't play him a whole lot because you wanted to see the young guys.
Well, he was injured too.
And he was hurt. Fair enough. But, you can't operate as an NHL team carrying a backup that you don't trust to play a one-off game in the NHL.
Yeah.
Then what you're saying is we don't have an NHL player here. And what you're saying is we haven't done a good enough job fortifying the crease, even if injuries are a particular excuse in this case because of what's happened. But as I sit here right now, and look, Florida's missing a ton of guys from like Matthew Tkachuk isn't playing, Sasha Barkov's out for the year. That is not the defending reigning Stanley Cup champion that you could have otherwise got if they had full health.
Might be a spot
like
there.
They've struggled this year. I'm almost of the sense that as of right now, I'm for playing Patera in the Florida game. Again, depending on what you see out of Lankinen and Carolina and Tampa.
Yellow Dog Brewing has 2 beers. Count them, 2 beers on sale for the month of November. We've told you about the Chase My Tail, but the Way of Life Hazy IPA also on special 4-packs all month long. Look for it on sale at private and government liquor stores.
Okay, let's get to Crave the Stats, brought to you by Uber Eats. We said we were going to look a little deeper into Quinn Hughes and the Vancouver Canucks record without Quinn Hughes in the lineup. Mr. Price, what'd you find out?
Well, as you can imagine, they are not great without Quinn Hughes, but they might be better than you think. 2-2 this season without Quinn Hughes in the lineup because we know that he has already missed some time. But if you're craving deeper stats than that, well, they've been pretty good with him all said and done when he hasn't been able to get in the lineup. Of course, missed 14 games last year, and they have kept their head above water, Matt, when he hasn't been available to them. And, credit to now they've been better, I think, as a team than they are currently. But it's still rather amazing that they have been as decent as they have been with him out of the lineup.
I was actually stunned when you brought me that record. I was like, really?
15, 12, and 2.
That's even above 500 even in NHL math.
Yeah. Yeah, that's right.
It's 15 and 14.
Yeah. Last year they were 500.
In fact, that stretch in and around the Four Nations break last year, Canucks were 5-2-1 without Hughes.
In that stretch, yeah.
Yeah, 6-6-2 overall. But so there you go. 8-game sample size. They more than kept their head above water. This is just day to day. This is not sky falling.
I think you say 5-2-1.
5-2-1.
That's all post JT Miller trade too, isn't it?
I would.
Well, it's very close to.
Oh yeah, it would be.
Totality.
Yeah, it would be. Yeah.
I mean, that's
JT was January 31st.
That's
right?
walk on water sort of stuff right there.
Honestly, yeah. They got wins against Colorado in that stretch, if I'm not mistaken.
Both goaltenders available? Makes a big deal, right?
Well, I think Demko was available for some of those games. I'd have to go back. No, but that's not too bad. We have a super chat here. Let me get to the super chat, and then we'll get to tell them about Uber Eats. Folks on YouTube, that super chat button is always available to you. Hit it, make your donation. Partial proceeds to the BC Mental Health Foundation. In fact, we're going to have a guest from the BC Mental Health Foundation on here coming up. The Botchford project is open for applications. We'll get into that later in the program as well. This is Brybeck, who says, I think and hope Rutherford, with his big mouth, would come out and tell us if the owner is blocking a Quinn trade, he has nothing to lose. I hear what you're saying. It's not the worst shout. In particular, because Jim Rutherford came to loggerheads with Peter Karmanos with the Carolina Hurricanes once upon a time. In fact, Karmanos' son aligned with Jimmy in all of that. It was quite ugly. It was a story that didn't get a ton of national run, in part because it was Carolina. And if I'm not mistaken, I think even Rutherford at one point, even had equity in the Hurricanes because Karmanos was running out of money. Couldn't afford to pay him. So it was a different arrangement than just simply being a employee of the owner. Now, people in hockey tend to protect the guy with the gold, right? Like, you don't hear many people throwing owners out under the bus.
No, but this is going to be Jim's last job.
That's what I was just about to say, is Jim does have nothing to lose there and could probably do this market a big favor if he did.
I still think he waits. I think he waits until he's not a member of the Vancouver Canucks to do that.
I think that's probably, like, he's not going to say that while still in the employ of the Vancouver Canucks.
No.
He will likely tell one of his Toronto insider buddies, I would suspect.
Yes.
After the fact, if that's the case. Jimmy turns 77 in February. And yes, this is going to be his last NHL post. I think that much is clear as well.
And this season is likely getting very old for him.
Well, yeah.
Like, not what he was thinking.
Yeah. Yeah. And we discussed it earlier. If this season goes completely awry and the Canucks need a scalp to hand the fans, I could see Jimmy resigning to protect Patrick Allvin, say, okay, I've had my go, it's time. And if that's not the case, I could see them moving on Allvin.
I said it yesterday on CTV.
Save the salary. Jimmy, you're in charge now, nobody else.
I think it needs to get very ugly for heads to roll. Very ugly. I think as long as they're around 500, you can convince yourself that it's not so bad.
Yep. Oh, I can completely see them being that team that's like 3 games under 500 and sitting there like the Monty Python night. We
not
still
dead
got a
yet.
chance. Yeah.
Yes.
Speaking of Allvin, Canucks make a roster move yesterday. Jonathan Lekramaki activated from the injured reserve and assigned to the Abbotsford Canucks. Now, I don't know if the plan there is to get him a little bit of run because of the time he's missed and bring him right back up, or, that he's going to have to earn a promotion. Needless to say, he is one of their better shooters, one of their better natural goal scorers, and that's a profile of position they could certainly use. Although I must say, Blake, very recently, the scoring goals has been less of a problem than preventing goals over the last couple of weeks.
No, but this doesn't have to be that long a stint for Jonathan Lekramaki. Send him back for 3 weeks, get a scoring touch, get back into the swing of things, get back into fitness, and just see where we're at. And yes, Abby absolutely needs him. So it scratches a couple of itches there. Yeah, makes a lot of sense. Uber Eats, your exclusive game day deals on the app. Make sure you download the app today so you don't miss out on any of those. Like every time the Canucks are playing at home. Buy one, get one free. 6-piece chicken McNuggets from McDonald's in Vancouver. Only on Uber Eats.
And Blake, the skid is over. The Abbotsford Canucks finally get a W, snapping an 11-game losing streak. Poor Manny. 4-3 shootout win over San Jose behind rookie goaltender Aku Koskenvo, the 2021 fifth-round pick, who had been at ECHL Kalamazoo. Called up, makes 33 saves, plus 3 more in the shootout in his AHL debut for the victory. Joseph Labate, the bait shop. The shop was open. As Frank Corrado.
Is it open? Yes, it's open.
The bait shop.
And it's open late.
Shop's open, baby. With a minute 16 left to play. Scores to force the extra period. Ty Mueller. And Nils Oman with 2-point nights for Manny Malhotra's charges with the Abbotsford Canucks.
Now, you kind of gave a shot to the Canucks organization for their assignments of goaltenders because they're missing that third caliber. But they do have a lot. They do have a lot of young talent, though. Like good on Koskenvold to come and get that. We know, of course, Medvedev down at the junior level, and Tolapilo's got some, and even Ty Young too.
Even Young, yeah. Abby is now on to San Diego for the weekend. They are 3-9-2, still last place in defense of their Calder Cup championship. But hey. You have tasted sweet victory. They started the season 2-0. They lost 11 from there, 9 in regulation. And good on Koskenvo and those Abbey Canucks for rallying. Time now for our menu. It's brought to you by Greta. Fantastic spot to catch all the games, home and away. You were mere steps from the arena or stadium. So pregame, postgame, of course, they have the amazing arcade, and it is a fantastic spot if you're hosting an event, plus the menu. Try the smash burger. You'll love it. 50 West Cordova, Greta Bar. Let the games begin. We're going to talk to Patrick Johnston here, as mentioned. He says, look, season's not lost yet. And he'll take us a little bit into that story he did on the weekend about when the Gillis regime and then the Linden regime were hoping to rebuild and how that turned out for them, or at least turned out for the guys leading the rebuild charge, what could have been if any of those rebuilds were allowed to go forward.
It didn't go well.
It didn't go well. We have a very excited child out here in the lobby waving at us. Hello, son. So we'll talk to Patrick about all those matters. We will also go down the I-5 and talk to Captain Gregg Bell of the News Tribune in Tacoma. When we want to talk Seahawks, we go to Captain Bell.
It's the Week 10 Super Bowl this weekend.
11, pardon me. Week 11. It's a big one. It is a big one. Seattle at Los Angeles. Seahawks versus Rams. Both teams 7-2, tied for the best record in the NFC. Winner, of course, takes the lead in the division. Winner could be the number 1 seed in the NFC coming out of the weekend, depending on what Philadelphia does. I did not have this on my bingo card this year, Blake.
Well, and based on the quality of opposition.
Good, I thought they'd be.
Based on the quality of opposition in this game, I think the winner of this game in power rankings starts to get serious consideration as the best team in the National Football League.
Yeah. Yeah, it'll be a big win. You got some 8-2s in the AFC in Denver and New England. And who else is there at 8-2? There's one other.
I think there's 3 teams that are 8-2.
Indy, of course. Yeah, Indianapolis 8-2 as well. But no, you're quite right. Like, I think, you love point differential, right, Blake?
Yeah.
Seahawks plus 103, Rams plus 98.
Oh my God.
Philadelphia's plus 26. Denver plus 62. They don't score. Indy's plus 150.
New England's pretty good.
Yeah, New England and Indy are pretty good, but yeah. So anyways, huge football game for the Seahawks this week, and we'll talk about that. And then later in the program, big changes coming to MLS and their schedule. We will discuss that as well. as a tribute to the late Hall of Fame hockey writer Larry Brooks of the New York Post, who passed away today at age 75 after a brief battle with cancer. He was an absolute legend in the business, nearly 50 years engaged, Blake, with covering hockey, most of them at the New York Post, where he was just the bravest, toughest. I mean, they don't make him like Larry Brooks anymore, let me tell you. All that's coming up on the program. Time now for our Bet365 bets of the day. Blake, I took a future yesterday, and you took a future too because you're on the soccer match.
Yes.
I'm on the
Jonathan
soccer
David,
match too. You're telling me Canada is an underdog tonight at home in the cold against a country literally named for the equator? Can't abide. Ecuador plus 150, Canada plus 190. Give me the Canadians to win and hopefully double up the money.
I can't help but look ahead to the Canucks tomorrow, early start, so I'll let you get onto this early. The Carolina Hurricanes, I am comfortable giving up the 1.5 goals, plus 110 on the Hurricanes, minus 1.5 goals as the Canucks limp into Raleigh.
See, I am of the view when you lose, and we'll see about Hughes, I am of the view that when you lose a frontline player like a Demko, like a Hughes, what you typically get in that first game is everybody pulling on the rope, right?
In isolation.
A couple of games down the road where the absence is really felt. But
this is scab being ripped off over and over.
Oh, no. This segment of presentation, Bet365, whatever your bet, it's never ordinary at Bet365. Download the app, get in on the game, use code NATION when doing so. Must be 19 or older. Please play responsibly. Patrick Johnston coming up next. Garrison Price from the historic Wall Center.
The segment brought to you by your Pacific Toyota dealers and the Toyota Prius plug-in hybrid. I could see Patrick Johnston driving a Prius plug-in hybrid. He would really enjoy the fuel efficiency of it. I think he would enjoy the fact that to pick up the kids and stuff like that, he's driving an EV. Mm-hmm. But if he's assigned to go cover the Abbey team, he can drive on out.
That's right.
Use the gas range to get him there comfortably.
Mm-hmm.
Perfect. And that's the kind of vehicle that works for most of you out there.
Charges as it drives.
Go check it out. From $99 weekly at 3.49% APR for 64 months with $3,600 down. It includes a $3,000 discount. Visit shoptoyota.ca or visit your local Pacific Toyota dealer today, as I've inspired Patrick to do.
And here he is, the columnist with the Province and Post Media, covering the Vancouver Canucks, the one and only PJ, Patrick Johnston. How are you?
Just sign here, here, and here. And it's all yours.
Yeah, I mean, listen, there's a particular car share service that obviously has lots of Priuses.
So you know it. Yes, there you go.
That I often take to drive across town to go out cover the Whitecaps. I'm thankful on this pouring Thursday.
Yeah.
I'm going to Whitecaps practice today.
And Blake, who are we kidding? Like, if that decision is being made in the House, that's a Candace decision.
Yes, I apologize to Candace for stopping at capo level. I should have gone to the boss.
That's right. He makes recommendations. She makes decisions.
I just work here, guys.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, Thatcher Demko is lost week to week. Is the season lost as well, Peach?
No, because stranger things have happened.
Correct answer.
But listen, it's been well detailed how well he's played. But the thing to remember is what that has meant in the big picture. Like, this is a team that gives up too many chances, that has struggled defensively, and he's bailed them out by being just consistently very, very, very solid. And as a player, as a goalie, like, you can't replace that. Like, Kevin Lankinen will be fine, but he won't be as good. And that's the simple truth. And Jiri Patera is a total unknown right now because they don't have Nikita Tolopilo, the guy that they actually like. So, that's why I know we're recording right now as we were discussing, like, maybe Spencer Martin comes back, but like, the truth is that nobody is going to be able to play to the standard of Demko. And that's the challenge is that they've been too porous defensively. He's helped them not look porous defensively. And they don't score enough goals to outscore their problems. As I detailed last week, the math on the special teams is not good. But 5-on-5, the math is not good either. So that's the simple truth.
Do you play Jiri Patera on this 3-game in 4-night road trip? Or do you say, we think Kevin Lankinen can get through it all?
Have you guys noticed how few goals the Florida Panthers have scored? Like,
they're missing some guys there, but yeah.
It sounds funny to do it against the defending Stanley Cup champs. But if there's a game that you are less anxious about in relative terms, I think it's that one. 43 goals this year for Florida, which is among the lowest in the league. So week to week is what I'm hearing on Demko. It could be as short as 2 weeks, which means, you're getting through 5 games, I think, or 6 games. JPAT did the math on. The thing is that you probably need to start from a non-Lankinen goalie somewhere in here. The good news is that, the back-to-back thing is not as challenging as it used to be. Goalies are just better prepared, and fitness is better. And the data that we used to lean on was like 15 years old. And I've talked to people in the years since, and they're like, no, if you're smart about it, in general, if you play at home, it's a lot easier, obviously. Now, the nice thing is that the trip from Tampa to Fort Lauderdale is not very long.
And you get 2 hours extra because the second game is later than the first.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Like, you're getting home. You're getting to your hotel in Tampa. Like, the airport's the hotel in Florida in Fort Lauderdale is not far from the airport. In fact, your trip from downtown Tampa to the Tampa airport is probably the longest part of your journey.
Yeah.
So, you could easily go back to back with Lankinen here, but the fact is he's going to be playing against a high volume team on Friday. I keep forgetting why I think it's Thursday. Anyway, on Friday in Carolina, he's going to face a ton of shots. That's just the truth. That's how Rod Brind'Amour's team plays. So it's on the back of that. Like, how much recovery does he need for the third game in 4 nights? I have a hard time, like I said, seeing. I think. This is just my gut. I have no info on this, but I think I would not be surprised to see Patera play, say, in Florida.
1 game in 5 days after that point, by the way. So
exactly.
There's recovery time.
Yeah.
They have been a little looser than I expected they would be this year, and some of that is by design with what Foote has wanted his team to do, and defenseman pinching, and he outlined some of this in preseason and training camp when he was talking more and more about how he likes to play.
Yeah,
I've been a little surprised because, of course, 2 years ago they had that fantastic, 5-skater, 6-man defensive posture that served them so well. I thought that was going to be something that Foote leaned on because he was a defensive defenseman, and because that was the strength of the hockey team. But they haven't been like that. They haven't played like that for the most part through 18 games. Patrick, I'm not sure we would enjoy watching all of this, but tactically, is it time to park the bus, so to speak?
Bring back Rick Tocchet. The moment Adam Foote started talking about wanting his guys to play on reeds, I was thinking, ooh, boy. Like, that is a very demanding way to play, and I'm not even sure there's a lot of teams that can get away with it anymore. You need a really high quality hockey smart defense core, and obviously Quinn Hughes is that guy. Marcus Pettersson, when he's playing well, and he has not been playing well, can be that guy. Tom Verlander clearly is getting in that direction, slowly but surely turning himself into, I think, an NHL regular. Tyler Myers, like, listen, you guys know I'm a big believer in Tyler Myers. I know he is not perfect, and that when he makes a mistake, it is spectacular, partly because he is so large, and so you notice. But he is a guy who himself will tell you he has not been successful in read environments. Like when the Tocchet stuff first started locking in terms of their breakouts and what he was demanding of his players in terms of where they needed to be, Myers would tell you it was great because he would just look up. He didn't have to think. He didn't have to. He could just look up. There's the guy where he's supposed to be pass. And so that part of the game that they've struggled at times has not surprised me. Can they sit back? I mean, yes, absolutely. Backdoor goals against, Tyler Bertuzzi just sitting at the back door was such a statement about what the Canucks have been giving away. But when they break down, it obviously is pretty spectacular. And again, that Chicago game was a great example of that, where they were kind of in the driver's seat and they were playing smart, and then one thing went wrong, and there was cascade problems everywhere. So I'm not sure in the end sitting back really is going to be the way forward. If this team is going to play better, they just have to play better. And their defensemen have to figure out what's going on better. I
don't think it's systems as much as just underperformance by the individuals, don't you? I mean, these are players that when you're that deep, and let's take the Bertuzzi goals as an example, like, there's a lot more instinct than it is true system when you're down to those critical areas. And I'm amazed that these guys with these resumes have been so porous.
Yeah. Yeah. It's funny because it doesn't feel like the kind of tire fire that Bruce Boudreau's team was defensively does it though, right? Like it's a different way. It's just, I think as much as anything, it's a struggle to retain possession of the puck. Mm-hmm. It's almost like a rate thing as much as anything, that they're simply, the comparison of football is so often is who had the ball last, right? Like are you scoring at the same rate as your opponent? Did you get the last possession, right? Yeah. And right now the Canucks, it feels like in a way they're simply losing possession too much, which was a big Tocchet thing, right? Like that's part of the reason why shot suppression is so notable in like Rick Tocchet coached game, is that he does not want his team to give up the puck. And the Canucks have been, I think, guilty too often of not finding ways. And Adam Foote talked about this, I think, last week when I asked him about it, not directly, but he talked about the challenges they're having offensively in there's too many one and dones, right? Like they go in, they get a chance, then they lose the puck, and then they're back at the other end. The other team gets a couple shots, and that has been a thing that's been the real problem. And that is a forward personnel problem, and that does not surprise us. I mean, obviously they're lacking a true number 2 center. The Pettersson line has been playing pretty well and have been retaining possession well, but there's not a lot of other examples that in the there's not a lot of sort of examples of other guys doing that. That this is a team that fundamentally needs to find a way to keep the puck more. And so it's not so much sitting back and letting the other team bash away at your shin pads. I think it's as much as anything, it's a team that needs to find a way to hold on to the puck when they're in the offensive zone. So they're just playing up ice more. Like that to me is where they need to be.
Hughes leaves. Hughes comes back. Hughes not at practice today, according to Dan Murphy.
Right.
He played great when he came back, so that is surprising to some degree.
Yeah, it's obviously a huge concern, and I mean, I wrote about this. This is the West. What did he say? Weird play, right?
Yeah, weird play.
And that was it. Like, okay, did you jam your nerve? Like, what's going on here? There's a guy that obviously everybody needs to be at his best, even if he's not at his best. You know what I mean? And we saw the amount of minutes he's been playing. Obviously, we assume the groin is a problem there. Like, that's soft. I mean, I find myself wondering, given the task at hand and everything we just discussed, right? Goalie you're trying to reduce the pressure on. You need to hang on the puck more. Well, what's the solution there? You give Quinn Hughes as much ice time as he can get. So if I'm thinking optimistically, the reason why he is being given a day off is because they just need him to rest, and all they need to do is play games, and he doesn't need to practice. It's a little bit what they could have said last Friday with Demko saying, well, let's be honest, there's a lot of games here. He's had a lot of wear and tear. He's feeling a bit sore, so we should give him a rest, and he doesn't need to practice. That would be the message that I would articulate were I the Vancouver Canucks. It's we'll see, I guess. We'll see how this shakes out, but it's definitely not an easy time for the Vancouver Canucks, that's for sure.
Oh, no. It's early. He's a young defenseman. I suspect he still has a very long and promising NHL career ahead of him. I want to talk about DPD for a second.
Sure.
He's the worst Corsi amongst regulars on the team at less than 43.
Yeah.
We know he's never going to be a big points guy, but it's 2 points in 17 games.
Yeah.
And they're not even using him all that much. Like, I thought one of the things that Foote and this staff would do is, because the defense core looks so strong, is, play that third pair a little bit more and save some of the legs on Hughes and Roenick. Like, this was a guy that some in Canucks fans considered like untouchable in the summer when you're looking for a second line center. This has been his start to his, to be fair, first full NHL campaign. You got a concern level creeping in here. Is this guy maybe not who we thought he was going to be, or is it just too young, early, give him time?
Yeah, a little nervous, like, especially as he's not really found a way to right himself this season. It is a little bit of a case of a player who I think maybe is struggling for confidence a little bit. Obviously, new system, as we've already talked about. Being asked to be a guy. I mean, he's not a puck mover, right? Like, his puck skills are good enough to be in the NHL, sure, but he's not there to move pucks. He's there to be belligerent and difficult, and he hasn't even really been that. And that's what worries me more than anything. So, is he lost? Is he not getting enough direction? He had a really good start last spring, and then obviously the team wasn't playing that great. Overall, I thought he struggled a little bit down the stretch. Maybe just a case of the first long North American season. But yeah, like, I still, like, clearly I think there's still a player there, but this is the truth, is that most guys are just kind of in this mushy middle of the sort of NHL player population, and most of them are not going to be stars. And, not that he was ever a star coming up. Like, he's a great kid to talk to. I've always appreciated chatting with him, and I think he's very conscious and very aware of who he is as a player and what he brings to the table. That said, he still needs to be more than he's been. And if Derek Forbort comes back, which we assume will be soon, but you never know, that's an easy choice there. He's probably fortunate right now that Pio Joseph has not exactly shown himself to be a high quality alternative when he's played. But no, the Canucks need more from him. And overall, the defense core has slipped. Like, that's the irony in all this. We talk so much about how great the defense core has been, but even if they're being asked to play a system that is more challenging, they need to be better than they've been. Like, that's just
there was a play on Tuesday. Jeff pulled it out saying, like, the puck's in the corner, short area defending. Like, that should be his game, right? And yet the puck gets to the net front.
I'm going to read two headlines from today, and maybe headlines is overstating them. I'm just going to read them, and you can provide comments if you see fit. David Camp being bought up for the purposes of mutual termination. Penalty killing center. And Igor Sharangovich, a healthy scratch in year one of a 5-year contract extension, paying him $5.75 in Calgary left shot center as well. Just presenting there. Any comments, sir?
I mean, they do need more centers. Like, there's no doubt about that. Are either of these guys really going to solve the problem? I'm not sure.
But they'd be solving two different problems potentially in the blue sky world.
I mean, Camp, fourth line center. I mean, is he better than Max Sasson? I don't know. Is he better than Niels Oman? Probably.
He kills penalties without a doubt better than Max Sasson. Yeah. Like he is a certified top level NHL penalty killer.
As we talked about yesterday,
terrible 5-on-5.
As we talked about yesterday, when Garland and Pettersson and Sherwood are amongst your heaviest used penalty kill forwards, and you still stink. You're A, not getting results. B, you're taking stuff out of them on the offensive end.
You may use him.
This is why fourth liners kill penalties.
He might be the specialist that barely sees 5-on-5 ice if you bring him in. But, anyway.
Yeah. So sure. And I mean, you're probably getting him for next to nothing. And so it's, it's a hard throw, right? Sharangovich, I mean, if you're talking about another dart throw and saying, hey, maybe he can help fix our center depth problem. Is he better than Lucas Reichel? I don't know.
Yes, he is better than Lucas. He is unequivocally better than Lucas.
Yeah,
he's done it.
So.
He's done it.
Sorry,
he's got a 30-goal season. Yeah. He's got a 24-goal season.
I'm saying I don't know in the general sense. I mean, I'm saying I'm not sure in the general sense. Sure, why not? I don't know. He's better. I think, clearly better than Reichel. Reichel has struggled. Reichel has beautiful skater, loves watching him stick handle. He hasn't been able to bury any chances. So, he's, I suppose, worth a shot if you can bring him in for whatever. But
Sharangovich, I think, is going to cost you something substantial, even if that contract looks daunting. He apparently was healthy scratched once last year as well. So
after he'd signed the deal, but it hasn't kicked in yet.
Camp costs you nothing, whereas Sharangovich, I think you're actually going to have to part with something substantial. Because Calgary can just, he's 27. Calgary can just hold on.
And say, he's fine. I think he's fine. I get why, he's obviously scored some goals and I get it. And fundamentally, here's a guy that has not produced. He was a decent enough player on a not very good team last year. A pretty good team on I can't even remember what they were like in 23, 24. They didn't make playoffs, but he's been a pretty solid NHLer. If he's available, sure, take a shot. I get it. I don't know. In the end, this is a team that needs to find guys that are better than what they have. If they're going to they have to get better, and that they need to find guys that are better than what they have. That's the kind of player that absolutely you should be looking at. Reichel was a shot in the dark. They traded a fourth round. He didn't cost them very much. He was a sort of a busted, he's in that Vitaly Kravtsov category, right? Busted prospect. Let's see if we can pick him up for cheap. Maybe we can try something different. But most of the time, those guys don't work out anyway because the first team was right in their assessment. Sharangovich, handy player. That's fine. Sure. See if you can bring it in.
But cost of acquisition would be
that's the stay in it trades. I saw you wrote on Rebuild on the weekend, and I learned some things. I knew the Canucks had a deal for Kessler to Anaheim that involved multiple first round picks that Francesco squashed. Heard from people in that room who say he sort of buried his face in his hands and then emerged and said, "I'll convince Ryan to stay." Sure enough, he didn't. I also knew that they had their eyes on Dylan Larkin with one of those first-round picks if that deal had gone through. I did not know about the Burrows deal to Philadelphia for a first-round pick that year.
It was funny because I'd actually kind of written about all this last spring, but I guess the end of the year was so miserable that nobody noticed. The Burrows to Philly, that would have been like Travis Sanheim or something like that. Both Anaheim picks, Canucks pick. You got 4 picks in the first round. I mean, that changes the dynamic. And in a way, everyone seems to think a rebuild has to be a long, arduous process. he would have had all those guys in the NHL probably by 2016, right? So you're running out a young lineup that's punching its way forward. You still would have the Sedins, like I didn't really put it out there as a sense of, well, look what they blew. It was more like rebuilds don't have to be painful, and they can happen quickly. To steal the former GMs, you can turn this thing around pretty quickly. That said, ownership's just never wanted to do that. That's just not how they've been. And in the end, look where it's gotten them. So the idea that this management team would turn around and say, no, we're just going to blow it all up. Like, they may have that hand forced on them, but they are not going to be able to say, this is something we are actively going to do. Fundamentally, they are trying to build a playoff team. And that is the task at hand. It's not just what they were hired to do. It's what they've been trying to do. And obviously they use the word transition, more of a transition team. I think it was the expression that was mentioned in preseason. But that's still fundamentally with the idea that this team would be in the playoffs, right? Like, we'll make the playoffs and we'll still keep building. We obviously have to find more talent up front. We have some decent defensemen in the system, but we got to find some forwards and some centers. Braden Coots could be one of those kids in the long run, but like, to become a true contender, that's a couple years away again. Like, we are pivoting ourselves away from what we thought we were a year ago. But that's, by the way, not a rebuild. And listen, rebuilds aren't the only way to do it. Like, you do not have to strip everything down to the studs. There are teams that have been able to pivot and
reload,
reload, or whatever you want to call it, right? But you still need to have. This is where to go back to our good friend Jason Botchford on the day the Botchford project gets relaunched. This is why you need an army of guys, because the idea that just you can have a handful of prospects and they're all going to hit and they're all going to become impactful players is foolish. You need a bunch of guys, and some of them are going to be better than you hope for, and most of them are probably going to be worse than you hope for. So,
what if those young guys are all
first-round picks? And none of them would have been Jake Virtanen, I can assure you.
What if all those young guys are playing behind injury-riddled veterans too? How does that work?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, like, anyway, the point is the Canucks are in a difficult spot. If they're not going to remain in the mushy middle, they do need some things to work out in their favor, and you need to keep throwing darts.
Pretty hopeful, but yes, if you're not going to rebuild, that's the only other way.
Yep. Okay, my friend, thank you for the time. You have a wonderful week. Great catching up, and we'll do so again next Thursday.
Absolutely.
Harrison Price from the historic Wall Center. Well, we've been talking about it all week. This is the biggest Seahawks regular season game in some time. 7-2. They head to SoFi Stadium in Los Angeles to take on the 7-2 Rams. Winner gets top spot in the NFC, and while the Eagles have something to say about it, also top spot in the NFC playoff seeding is available here for the team down the I-5. Joining us now to discuss, our dear friend, retired Army Captain Gregg Bell of the News Tribune in Tacoma. How are you, Captain Bell?
I'm well, guys. It must be a huge game for the Canucks season to be going on, and you're going to ask me about a Seahawks regular season game. Wow.
Have you seen this Canucks season,
I don't know
Greg?
this team you speak of. We only know Seahawks right now.
Yeah.
You know what's funny about the NHL? I was thinking about you guys the other day. When a team in the NHL is at 500, the sky is falling, and everyone needs fired. When the teams are in the NFL at 500, they're in playoff contention.
That's it.
About everyone 500 and you're in last place in the NHL. What is
you can make the playoffs 2 games above 500 in the NFL. That is not the case in the NHL.
So anyways, a nice palate cleanser here to talk about a winning team down the I-5. As you know, tons of Seahawks fans here in British Columbia. Greg, let me just ask you this, 7-2, how surprised are you?
Well, I'm surprised at how they've done it, because they're not playing offensively, guys, the way they're designed, the way they retooled, the way they brought in a whole new offensive staff. They were supposed to run the ball, and they're doing that, but they were supposed to run the ball effectively. No team in the NFL runs more than Seattle, 52% of the time. Yet for most of the season, no team has been worse at gaining yards when they run. But the effect of running has allowed Sam Darnold to throw the ball further down the field. He leads the league in yards per pass attempt, many of them on play action and bootlegs off of that run game that they're running 52% of the time. Now, those numbers got even more skewed last week because they were up 35-0 midway through the second quarter in Arizona, and they ended up running 46 times. They only threw it 2 times after halftime, and Darnold only threw 12 times the season low against the Cardinals because of the big early lead. But they aren't yet where they want to be offensively in terms of productivity running the ball. But their reputation precedes them. The Rams are going to have to honor the run more than they have in previous matchups in this series. But they just aren't doing it the way they thought they were going to offensively. Now, defensively, it's the same thing. McDonald thought he was going to have Nick Eamon-Murray and Devin Witherspoon, Eamon-Murray, the rookie second-round pick safety, and Witherspoon as kind of wild cards, roaming all over the secondary, blitzing from edges, from slots, playing all kinds of sub packages. Well, Eamon-Murray and Witherspoon have been hurt for the majority of the season. Witherspoon missed 5 of the first 7 games, and Eamon-Murray missed 4 games of the first 5. They haven't been whole in the secondary now that Julian Love is on injured reserve and Josh Jobe was out last week with a concussion. They haven't been with all their guys in the secondary, the starters, since the 5th play of the season. They aren't doing the way they designed to do it, but their front 4, Leonard Williams, DeMarcus Lawrence, Byron Murphy, have really been the MVPs of the team on defense with the pressure they've been able to get with just 4 and not blitzing.
So, what is the health of the secondary then going into this one?
Josh Jobe is still in the concussion protocol, Blake. He was on the practice field yesterday. They'll see today how he responds to that. When Rick Woolen tried to do that a couple weeks ago, he had a setback trying to come back for his first week back from a concussion. So not yet knowing if Jobe can start. Ernest Jones is going to start. The former Ram, he had a knee injury in Washington. It kept him out last week. But if he's breathing Sunday morning, he's going to play. He really wants to play this game against his former team on his former field. So I think he's going to play. Torrey Horton, the rookie wide receiver, practiced yesterday. He's missed the last game, I should say, with leg injury. And Jake Bobo, one of their special team standouts, and another 4th, 5th wide receiver, practiced yesterday. He's missed the last couple games. They're getting healthier, but they still don't have Julian Love, and they don't have their starting center. Jalen Sando is going to miss this game with the injury that he got, his knee injury against the Cardinals. That means Olowosimi, former Michigan man, Matt, is going to start at center, and he's had 3 chances to win the job, and he's been passed by 3 different guys the last 2 years. So the Rams' defensive pressure package, I bet, is going to come up the middle with Olowosimi on Sunday.
It's okay. He's an academic All-American, Greg. He'll have a bright career outside of football if need be, like most Michigan Wolverines do.
He was also the Outland Trophy winner in the Remington.
Yeah, he was.
Winner.
Yeah, no.
And then he gets to Seattle, and he got passed by a dude who's now retired. And they brought in Connor Williams last year, and then he retired. That's the only reason Olowosimi started last. And Jalen, undrafted rookie from North Dakota State, beat him out this year. Olowosimi's on the spot this week.
So long as he wasn't beat out by an Ohio State man, Greg,
right,
we're okay with that.
Yeah.
And look, as long as Tyrese Knight and DeMarcus Lawrence are on the field, they should be good for 14 points on defense, right? Like, that's how this works. Never seen that before in my life,
weird.
Greg. Have you ever seen that? Same guy forcing the fumble, picked up by the same guy, scoring 2 I've never seen that in my life.
And in fact, it's only happened 3 times in the NFL in 100 years.
Oh, my gosh.
There only 3 times since 1925 has one dude returned 2 fumbles for 2 touchdowns in the same game. And it happened on basically the same play. It was a different blitz. One was an off-tackle blitz and one was an A-gap blitz. But both guys, Tyrese Knight, both times, quarterback raises his hand and hits the ball out of Jacoby Brissett. They won that game last week on Tuesday when the Cardinals named Jacoby Brissett the quarterback. Yeah. Because DeMarcus Lawrence and those guys, it drives them nuts having to try to pass rush Kyler Murray. I know Murray's got all kinds of issues in Arizona, but they can't run straight up the field at a quarterback vertically at pell-mell, and as they did against Jacoby Brissett, play right into the strength of the Seahawks' hands.
Okay, well, with that in mind, as we debate, the reality of how good the Seahawks are, is there any conversation around the Rams like that? When does Stafford hit the cliff of age and all that sort of stuff? Like, how good are the Rams, do you think?
Well, they also aren't quite doing it the way they were designed to do it. Their running game, Kyron Williams, hasn't really gotten going this year. but they still run it. It's not like – it's a little bit like the Seahawks. They run to pass. They run to set up their screen games and their tight ends. The other thing the Rams are doing really well that's unique in the NFL, they run a lot of 13 personnel with 3 tight ends. They'll throw out of it. They do a lot of their running out of it. And they have killed teams the last 4 weeks, beaten everybody by 14 or more points, boat race teams using 13 personnel. 40% of the time, guys, they're in 3 tight ends, which is really unheard of in the NFL. Now, when I looked into this, teams have been playing them in base defense the last 4 weeks, including the 49ers last week, and they got absolutely smoked doing it that way. McDonald this season, when facing 2 and 3 tight ends, plays more nickel and dime than anybody in the league. 58% of the time when he sees multiple tight ends, he's in nickel or dime. That's because 86% of the time Seattle's in nickel because of how much he loves Nick Eamon-Worry and Devin Witherspoon to keep him on the field. Stafford's going to see something Sunday different, and it's sub-packages with extra defensive backs against all those extra types. Killers, I expect him to be a big part of this. I know they got Devontae Adams and Puka Nacua is back healthy and starting to out again, but Higbee has killed the Seahawks time and again, both home and away games when these two teams have met. And the screen game with running backs and tight ends has also absolutely murdered the Seahawks. They've spent a lot of time this week game planning against that. McVay is really good in these situations, designing a game plan to beat a defense. But when the Rams came up here last winter, the Rams offense only scored 13 points in regulation. They ended up winning that game in overtime and had a 105-yard pick six against Geno Smith. That's the JV script final regular season game last year when the Rams already had everything clinched and didn't have all the starters in. The one time McDonald as a head coach has gone against McVay was in Seattle in November last year, and 13 points is all the Rams got against McVay got against him.
On the quarterback, Greg, I mean, I watched with amazement last year with what he did in Minnesota, and then came those games late in the season against good playoff teams where Sam Darnold wilted. And that was with Kevin O'Connell, a quarterback whisperer. I had to say I had some pretty big concerns about Darnold being able to do it again away from O'Connell and Minnesota and with a new head coach and a new offensive coordinator. And yet here he is as an MVP candidate. Is this just who Sam Darnold is? Like, is he finally realizing that draft potential and being a franchise quarterback, or is there any 2024 redux possible here with him?
I will be able to answer that question better Sunday night at about 7 o'clock, because this is the team, as you mentioned, alluded to, this is the team that sacked him out of the playoffs last year. 9 sacks, an NFL playoff tying record. And we've talked to him about it a bunch of times. And he's starting this spring focused on that game. And he said his problem was he didn't get the ball out quickly enough. Even when there weren't hot receivers, he was holding on to the ball, trying to make plays down the field against the pressure. He said he just had to get rid of the ball more quickly, and that he really took that loss to personal heart, that he just needs to get rid of the ball, even if it's for incomplete passes. The key for Seattle is to not let the Rams get in such pressure packages, run the ball early enough, effectively enough where it's 3rd and 4 and 5 or 3 instead of 3rd and 9, 10 and 11. And I would expect guys, because the Rams play more dime defense than anybody in the league, 6 defensive backs in the field. I think a lot of Seahawks fans are going to be frustrated by how much Clint Kubiak runs the ball in pass downs on Sunday. He's going to run it against dime when he sees 6 defensive backs. He may even be worth punting the ball a couple times to set up something later in the game with runs against that dime's looks. But if Darnold can get the ball out, if they can be in shorter third downs so that the pass rush isn't as that big a factor, yeah, he'll erase a lot of ghosts and demons that have been haunting him. Everyone wants to know if the real Sam Darnold is the 14-3 guy or the 14-1 guy, or is he the 0-2 guy that the Lions and the Rams absolutely feasted on. So far this year, he's been the 14-2 guy, but this is why they signed him, to win these games. This is why they hired Mike McDonald, to win these games.
We had an intern in here last week who pointed out that Jackson Smith-Njigba led Seahawks receivers by like 600 yards. And you sit there and you go, how can there be that sort of disparity without people covering Jackson Smith-Njigba?
Just cover
more
the man.
than he did. He's been the best receiver in the NFL this year. And how has he done it, Greg? Like, how is he always open when he should be the focus of so much attention?
Yeah, not only is he 600 yards up on Cooper Kupp and the Seahawks, he's 200 yards up on Jamar Chase for the NFL lead in yards. Jamar Chase is no slouch. He's got 1,041 receiving yards already. Last year, we all made a big deal out of him getting to 1,000 for a season. We're not even to Thanksgiving. He's got 1,000. Look, there was one play against Houston in the Monday night game a couple weeks ago before the bye that really stuck to me about how much Darnold will go to Smith come hell or high water, and he trusts him so much. It was 4th and 1. They ran a rollout to the left, opposite of the strength of the quarterback's arm. And they had the tight end, A.J. Barner, in the flat for a 2-yard gain. It would have got 95% of the quarterbacks throw that pass, get 2 yards, and move the sticks. Darnold looked right at Barner, who was open, and threw instead an 18-yard out route to Smith-Njigba, who was covered. Much lower percentage pass into coverage. Smith-Njigba boxed the guy out like a basketball player, made the catch. He did the box-out move with a defender on his back for the touchdown, 43-yard touchdown against the Cardinals last week. Darnold has quickly grown into thinking, I can throw the ball at any time against any coverage in any situation, and this guy's going to still make the catch. And that's why he's getting all the targets. I mean, there are games that he's got 14 targets and Kupp has 3. And you're right. You would think that means let's cloud cover, let's bracket cover with safety over the top. That's why they traded for Shaheed from the Saints last week. They kept Shaheed under wraps against the Cardinals because they didn't need to use him deep down the field. Sunday against the Rams, they're going to send him deep on post routes and goes at the safeties for the Rams to make LA choose, do we still want to bracket and shade to Smith-Njigba's side when we have a burner coming around the backside with Shaheed? Shaheed has a chance to have a big game if the Rams really give attention to Smith-Njigba.
Yeah, and I saw they even used him in the running game last week, Shaheed, with all that speed to get it tossed. Yep.
I think the DK stands for don't know Metcalf anymore because I've forgotten him, given what they've put into the receiving core now.
Honestly, to think that you could be this explosive in the passing game after trading DK Metcalf is quite extraordinary. Yeah. Last question for you, Greg, but they lose that heartbreaker at home week 1 to division rival San Francisco. And Darnold makes a mistake late, and, we all sit there and go, oh, new quarterback, same storyline for the Seahawks. Where was that team after that game? How were they able to rebound after such a crushing and emotional defeat on home field in week 1?
Honestly, it's Mike McDonald's defense, guys. They are, because they're getting big plays and the pressure and the sacks, they have the number 1 pressure rate in the league, while one of the lowest blitz rates in the league. They rush 4 and only 4, and they're getting the cover with 7 in the back. And that's allowing the Seahawks to play from the front in games and not having to chase down games and not having to throw it 40 times because they're behind multiple scores like Geno Smith had to behind a bad offensive line for years. Darnold's playing from the front. And any quarterback's going to look like an MVP candidate if he has 28-0 leads in the first quarter every week. And that's what's happened the last couple weeks. The defense is allowing them to play how they want offensively and dictate terms offensively. Going to be less so against the Rams, I think. I've been saying all along, yeah, it's great they've been beating the Saints and the Jaguars and the Texans and the Steelers, the Cardinals twice. This is what they're supposed to be, the team that can beat the Rams. They brought in an offense, a new quarterback, Mike McDonald, and his defense to beat the Rams and 49ers and win the division. They still haven't beaten the 49ers, as you mentioned. And now they got 2 in a span of a few weeks here against the Rams. This is why they're here, to win these games and win a division and have home playoff games. I think this team is an incomplete and that nothing really has happened until we see more on Sunday.
Well, it's actually a pretty good-looking weekend of NFL games, and none bigger than the Seahawks and the Rams from SoFi in Los Angeles. Look forward to that. Greg, thanks again for joining us here. Always appreciate you making time for us. Next time, perhaps not an Ohio State sweater, okay? And in fact, November 29th from the Big House, if you want to meet me at a sports bar in Blaine, okay, I'll be in my Mason blue. We can have a watch party together. Thanks for this, buddy. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Greg.
Yes, sir. Go Army, beat Navy. Thanks, guys. Thanks, Blake.
Sekeres & Price from the Historic Wall Center and the Pacific Toyota Dealer Studio, built by Arbor Lee. The best plays aren't just on the ice or on the field. Stay downtown, here at the Wall. Enjoy exclusive Sekeres & Price perks. Call 604-331-1000. Tell them we sent you. Some blackout date supply based on availability. As mentioned with Greg, fetching NFL weekend, Hawks, Rams, but Kansas City, Denver, Detroit, Philadelphia, Buffalo, Tampa Bay.
Love it.
Some big games. And then San Francisco, Arizona in the NFC West, 49ers victory. They'd be tied on wins with the loser of Seattle, LA, but a half game back in the loss column, having not yet had their bye week. Tomorrow, we'll talk with Glenn Suter from the 112th Grey Cup in Winnipeg. Nathan Rourke goes for the double tonight. Most outstanding player, most outstanding Canadian player. He, of course, won the latter award in 2022. If he wins MOP, it'll be back-to-back for Canadian players after Winnipeg running back Brady Oliveira won it last season. You may remember when New West John Cornish won it, Blake, 12 years ago or so. We were talking about the first Canadian player to win that award since Tony Gabriel in the late 70s. So it's been a very, very good run of Canadian football players here.
What I'm worried about is the serenade, the walk-off for Bo Levi Mitchell. Does he get the sympathy?
Yeah.
And he was great. That belittles the season, but you know what I mean?
I hear what you're saying.
Yeah.
He will probably not be in this position again.
Right.
He has been a great Canadian Football League quarterback.
He's a legend, I think. I think we can officially elevate Bo Levi Mitchell to legend status. Like, he is one of the greatest all-time quarterbacps in the CFL.
Yeah, no, he's
just crossed that bar, but he's
honestly, I thought he was washed a couple of years ago.
Yeah,
he won the award incidentally in 2018 as a member of the Calgary Stampeders. One other note I wanted to get to on Canadian football. Did you see the terrible story? The starting quarterback for the University of Saskatchewan, he had missed the last few games of the regular season, and people were like, oh, okay, what's going on there? Anton Amandrad announced yesterday that he has been diagnosed with lymphoma and is stepping away from football. He played the first 6 games of this season, was the Canada West All-Star quarterback. He led the country in passing yards per game at 328 before taking leave of the team about a month ago. Saskatchewan's in one of the national semifinals this weekend against the Wilfrid Laurier Golden Hawks. In fact, they host that game. So a lot of Saskatchewan Roughriders fans, needless to say, looking forward to the Grey Cup, but also looking forward to that game. And I'm sure rallying around their quarterback. It's Montreal and St. Mary's from Halifax in the other U Sport National Semi this weekend. Major League Soccer moving to a new calendar for the 2027 season. The regular season would span from mid-July to April, plus a winter break in December, January. The playoffs would run in May. This aligns with the rest of the World Soccer calendar, so it means avoiding things like international breaks in the midst of your playoffs, which we're in now. And, of course, teams decimated by international call-ups. Was there a Whitecaps game this year? They were missing like 6 or 7 guys, and the opponents were missing like 9 guys to international duty. It also means the MLS has to compete a little more readily with those fall to spring leagues, the NFL, the NBA, the National Hockey League in Canada. I got to say, for me, I don't like it. Like, I view the Whitecaps season beginning as a sign of spring, kind of like baseball. And when hockey ends in April, as it does far too often in this market, I like the fact that we've got a Vancouver team to watch on a weekly basis before the lines start in June. I find myself routinely going to Caps games March through May, especially when you get those early spring days where you just want to be outside. I love going to those Whitecaps games when the sun is out and the temperature's getting warmer on a weekend in the spring.
The contention here is, Matt, that by aligning with the international calendar, more talent will want to be here. That's the contention.
Yep,
and if there are more Mullers and Sons that make their way over with still years left in their tank, this will be better for Major League Soccer. Wilfred Nancy, a very successful Major League Soccer coach, said, we will not be a world-class league until we do this.
Yeah.
Like the people.
And to be fair, you can still go to those March, those early spring games. It will be the end of the Whitecap season, but those will still be
and keep in mind,
available to you.
Here, not so much for Toronto and Montreal, but here, everybody plays a winter schedule. So you are in soccer mode. Like the population of Vancouver is in soccer mode.
We're the only province that does it this way. Though.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
So, but I'm saying it's not for Toronto, but for Vancouver, it'll be the least weird because we are in soccer mode the entirety of the MLS season. Teams can more easily go to Vancouver Whitecaps games together en masse as a group to support the team because they will be together for all these months.
Is there a single soccer parent in this community, though, that would vote against moving the schedule? When I talk to soccer parents, they talk to me about watching games in pouring rain from their vehicles in the parking lot.
100%, and I don't think
to me it is so weird
Matt,
that you have this outdoor sport that is so subject to the climate that is being played in the dead of the rainy season as opposed to the beauty
if you
of
put
the
it to a vote,
summer.
Those parents would vote 80-20 to keep it as it is. Look for local soccer because they want their summers off.
Yeah,
they don't want to be on the pitch, beholden to the city when they can be elsewhere.
Yeah, okay. Makes for some awfully wet parents on the sidelines. That's all I know is I go drive by soccer pitches this month in particular, but through the winter.
My kids are on a pitch right now as we speak in a torrential atmospheric river.
Okay, let me ask you this. Caps go on a playoff run, but the Canucks are on a playoff run at the same time. I'm sorry, they just get buried, Blake. When the local NHL team in a Canadian market is on a Stanley Cup playoff run, it is the only story in town.
Galaxy brain here, Matt.
Mm-hmm.
The Whitecaps have looked at the Vancouver Canucks and said, we're willing to take that chance.
I hear you. It is going to happen at some point, though.
Yeah, it is going to. And for those years, you might get buried.
Yep.
They're willing to take that chance.
Yeah. The other thing, of course, is this means the local sports calendar gets even thinner in June, July until the MLS season starts. Be fewer opportunities when the kids are out of school to go out.
Are the BC Lions doing backflips right now?
Oh, I mean, they love it. Because now, for them, I mean, now BC Place has opened up more dates, right?
I mean, truthfully, it's easy to be a fan of both because they're both once a week for the most part.
Yep.
The Whitecaps can have busy times where they're twice a week, but it's pretty easy to be a fan of both. Let's be honest.
Also, no more MLS season pass. They have ditched the subscription model. MLS games will I shouldn't say that.
Additional subscription.
The additional subscription model. Mm-hmm. MLS games will now be available with an Apple TV subscription going forward. You won't need the added MLS season pass.
And I've seen some people say, if it's not free, I'm not going to watch. You don't watch anything for free. You pay for TSN. You pay for Sportsnet.
Yeah.
Everything costs. Unless you have rabbit ears and are watching CBC, you're paying for what you're watching. Or you're doing something else illegal.
The 7th annual Botchford project is open for applications until December 3rd. This program gives aspiring young hockey journalists an opportunity to cover the Canucks for a day alongside a mentor and learn about the sports media business. It is, of course, part of the legacy of our late colleague Jason Botchford, former Province Canucks beat writer who passed away in 2019. Our friend, Jason's widow, Kat Botchford, reviews the applications, and our colleague Jeff Patterson is one of the mentors. There have been many careers launched by this initiative, including our colleague David Quadrelli of Canucks Conversation, Canucks Army. It's a long list. And I know that would make Jason proud, so check it on out. The Canucks are promoting it right now. If you are an aspiring young sports journalist or know one, get them attuned to this program because it's an awesome opportunity to see what it's like on a sports beat. And we end today on a very sad note, as legendary New York Post hockey writer Larry Brooks has passed away at age 75 after a brief battle with cancer. Known as Brooksy throughout the industry, and of course, famously uttered by John Tortorella in that one scrum that went viral all those years ago.
Yeah, I guess that's what I'm saying, Brooksy.
You go stand over there. No, I will not. Larry won the Elmer Ferguson Award for Distinguished Hockey Writing by the Hockey Hall of Fame in 2018. He spent 38 years at the New York Post over 2 stints where he was the unequivocal authority on New York and New Jersey hockey. He was also the New Jersey Devils Director of Communications for a period of time. But his columns were read in every NHL market because there was a good chance that Larry knew something about the 31 other organizations that weren't yet known in that market. He was tough. He was brave. He wasn't going to back down. He didn't kowtow to Gary Bettman and the hockey men who have made their beds leaning on media people. You weren't going to lean on Larry Brooks. He was an independent thinker and writer. Post readers were richer for having read him. His Slapshots weekly column was an industry standard, a sneak peek at what was to come around the NHL, because Larry usually had the story and usually had it first. There are a couple of epic tributes to Larry in the New York Post today. One from New York Rangers beat writer Molly Walker, who took over the beat from Larry when he moved strictly to columns. Larry was not only a mentor, but Molly outlines just a beautiful friendship between two people 50 years apart, Blake, who just bonded over the sport of hockey. The other obituary in the New York Post, and the New York Post is a tabloid. The New York Post typically does short stories, like 400 to 600 words type stories. The obituary for Larry's got to be a couple of thousand words. It's written by a long-standing New York Post sports writer, and in it, New York Rangers and Knicks owner James Dolan is quoted. And look, James Dolan is a very odd cat. He does not do a lot of interviews. He tends to war with even allies. He sued the NBA. He sued the Raptors. He's kicked up a huge fuss with Bettman in the NHL when they wanted to take control of all the different team websites. Listen to this from James Dolan, Blake. He said, "What few people know is that Larry and I would meet on occasion, and he would give me his unabashed opinion on how the franchise was doing and what we needed to do to win. This never appeared in any of his columns, but I found his advice to be invaluable and will miss it dearly." That is some pronouncement from the owner of the Rangers.
I'm really glad that Larry Brooks got the Elmer Ferguson Award when he did, because he deserves it back in 2018. In our generation, they're not of our generation, but I mean, for people of our generation, Matt, I can think of 3 American writers that sort of separated themselves from the rest. And built. And they've all got the Elmer Ferguson. Kevin Allen and Scott Burnside are the other ones that really...
Well, Scott's Canadian, but yes, he has spent a lot of his career in the States.
And that's really amazing. And for Larry, particularly amazing. Kevin Allen worked for technically a national paper in the USA Today. But Larry to do it locally and to have his big... he's a builder of the game. He really is. And
I mean, I don't know where... hockey coverage in the New York metropolitan area would be without Larry. I mean, he set the standard that everybody, like, if hockey gets talked about on WFAN or one of the sports talk radio stations there, it's usually because of something Larry has reported in his column.
And he covered it seriously, as opposed to, if it's not the NFL, and even in the NFL sometimes, a lot of sports tend to get pussyfooted a little bit, like it's just around the edges, don't want to ruffle feathers. It's difficult. And we'll see how things like the PWHL get covered. Like, it's okay to critique, it's okay to
No, you're right.
The temptation is for things not named Major League Baseball, National Football League to, it's our goal to prop up everything. And
that's right.
And Larry never took the assignment as, I want to get the NHL, above the NBA. I want it to be the best league. Like, he was
not a cheerleader. No.
Yeah.
Well, what you got to understand is hockey is an entry level beat in the United States.
That's right.
It's where young people start, and they hope to typically move up to baseball, basketball, or football. Larry was a hockey guy through and through. His interest was in covering hockey. He loved the Yankees. He did cover the Yankees a little bit early in his career, but he wanted hockey. He wanted to cover hockey. And you're right. a lot of NHL teams in the United States, particularly in the newer markets, are covered sort of like we cover the Vancouver Canadians, where we talk about the guys who have done very well. It's a minor league baseball team. Hockey is covered like that in a lot of U.S. markets that either, prop up, just tell the good stories, or pom-poms, wave the flag. Oh, more people should like hockey. No, Larry covered it as seriously as the guys covering the Knicks and Jets and the Giants and the Yankees.
And in New York,
and the
you
Mets.
needed that.
And you mentioned about how he was known out of market, Blake. I'm looking at a tweet I got here from @Hendy111. He says, there's local hockey media, and we know, and the national guys as well. Outside of that, most don't know too many, but we all knew Brooksy.
Yep.
And then he asked, has John Tortorella been reached for comment? Well, as part of that obituary in the Post, it was reported that John Tortorella actually just this week reached out to the Brooks family to check in on Larry and see how he was doing. So very classy stuff there from Larry's one-time feud nemesis, the head coach of the Rangers, of course, former head coach of the Vancouver Canucks. There was an incredible story in that obituary about the 2003 Stanley Cup final between the New Jersey Devils and Anaheim Ducks. Brooks was covering it, I guess, in the tunnel or somewhere around the rink. He heard Disney CEO Michael Eisner, they owned the Mighty Ducks at the time, talking about the team's parade route after Game 7. He reported it in the Post. The Ducks went absolutely crazy. Eisner denied that he ever said anything. Turned out there was an audio recording of it, so that Larry was right. And apparently New Jersey coach Pat Burns brought that to the Devils' attention and even said, if Larry wrote it, Larry's always right. So how about that as a tribute to Brooks in the Post? The other thing, he had a long association with Lou Lamoriello. He actually was on his way out. There wasn't a lot of overlap between him and Lamoriello when he came to run the Devils. But the story points out that Larry and Lou had tremendous mutual respect, even if they didn't always agree. Even I think if Lou felt that Larry was too much in the Devils' business, because you know how Lou operated. But Lamoriello said when he found out that one of Brooks's grandsons was a hockey player, and apparently a pretty good one, he said, I made time in my calendar to go watch a game because I wanted to see what the tough hockey writing Larry Brooks was as a hockey grandpa. So very nice tribute there from Lamoriello as well. I knew him a little bit, mostly through Tony Gallagher. In fact, there were many times where we tried to book Larry on the show. He didn't always respond. If I knew I really wanted Larry on the show, I would reach out to Tony and I would say, Tony, I've sent Larry a note. Can you make sure he sees it? And without fail, Larry would respond to that and make himself available. Blake, 2016, you and I were on a Canucks trip as part of a contest we were running at the old radio station with some contest winners.
We traveled with the Canucks, folks.
Yeah, we traveled.
If you can frickin' believe that.
Well, we didn't travel on the charter.
No, not the charter, but
our old station was the rights holder at the time, and so we did Islanders, Rangers games, and then on to Boston. And so we show up at Madison Square Gardens, this, I want to say January 2016, and I'm walking by press row, and it is hours before the game because we're doing our show. And Larry's there, and he's like, what are you guys doing here? You traveling? And I go, well, no, we got this contest thing going on. He goes, oh, okay. And I'm sitting there on press row just reading some notes, having a bite, and the next thing I know, Larry looks down the aisle, and he summons me, he sort of nods his head like, come on over. And then I tweeted it today. It felt like an audience with the Pope. I was like, oh, my God, Larry wants to talk to me. Because he was tough. I mean, if you only knew Larry from the print side of things, he kind of was like Gallagher a little bit. He gets you shaking in your boots.
Good comparison.
So I walked on over, and he wanted to pick my brain about the Canucks. You may remember, Blake, that was Brandon Prust's last NHL game. Yeah. He was set to be a healthy scratch that day and apparently talked Willie Desjardins into putting him in the lineup because he had a constituency in New York. He had been a Ranger in the past, and it meant so much to him to play one more game with the Rangers. I can remember Benning walked by us after the first intermission and said, we got to get Jake in there. You could tell that Benning was not pleased with the decision to play Brandon Prust over Jake Virtanen in that one game. And, Prust was terrible that night and turned out to be his last NHL game. And so Larry was picking my brain on that.
Something else.
Yeah. Quite a legend. There won't be any like Larry Brooks going forward, I'll tell you that much. Okay, results of the Redwoods golf course poll question from Wednesday. We asked, with injuries piling up, what are you rooting for with this Canucks season? High draft pick or a playoff push? The people said, Blake?
I think they said high draft pick.
They did. Percentage?
70.
You're going to be astonished. 82.
Wow.
Amongst the samplings, Colin, the draftist in me is alive and well. That's Colin and planning. Ellie, good to see Ellie saying, rooting for this management team to leave and for the owner to sell.
I've been waiting a while.
Yeah, Broleus, I'm surprised how many people are ready for the tank. We're not that far out of it, and when we're healthy again, it won't be that bad. Yeah, there's a glass half full view here for sure. VJ, gotta vote playoff push. I cannot stand the death march. It's even worse in January, February. Season is too long. Draft, question mark? They'd choose the wrong player from Europe and probably move down the lottery. Yes, they don't often move up the lottery. Errors and omissions from yesterday's program. I have one. We were missing a word in the poll question. What are you rooting for? We missed the word you. That's on me. Nothing further. Thanks for joining us, everybody. Appreciate you spending some time connecting with the program. Please do subscribe to all our assorted channels, YouTube, and wherever you get your podcasts. Follow on social. That's X, Insta, Facebook, TikTok, YouTube, Blue Sky, live on many of those platforms. Noon Pacific time. Tomorrow it will be 10 a.m. because of that 4 p.m. start in Carolina. JPat's in for Blake tomorrow, so tomorrow 10 a.m. for the show goes live. And, of course, please do support the community sponsors you hear us talking about. Keep it local.